Hello and a warm welcome to this week's edition of the Irish Angle, our weekly discussion show. I've Emma Nagle and Johnny Ward here, and we're going to go back over everything to do with Punchestown, all the big flat racing we've had in the last week, and a few other things besides. Emma, Johnny, welcome to the show.
Thanks,
Hi, Vinny.
We were just discussing off air before we came on. We were all in Punchestown on Wednesday, and none of us saw each other. So there you go. Shows how many people were in Punchestown. What did you make of it, Emma? The weather was fantastic. That was the big thing, wasn't it, last week? The big takeout for me was the weather. Anyway.
Yeah, we're having a strange period of weather here in Ireland. It kind of maybe a bit worrying. We might be getting our summer a bit early, but yeah, brilliant weather all the way through the week in Punchestown. Probably helped the crowds a little bit, but great crowds across the whole week. You wrote about it in your blog. I was there Wednesday. I was hoping to get up Friday, but didn't make it up. Wednesday was a lovely crowd. I'm not sure was it up and down on previous figures, but brilliant racing on Wednesday. And I think everyone who I spoke to throughout the week who was at Punchestown any day had a great day of it. So I think thumbs up all around from Punchestown. It was a brilliant week.
Yeah, the numbers, Johnny, were huge. Like we're talking 136,000 people turned up over the 5 days. That was up from 118,000 last year. We had what they call a modern day record on Friday with over 42,000 people there, which was more people than attended the Wednesday of Cheltenham, which is hard to believe, isn't it?
I would call that absolutely incredible that there was a bigger crowd at Punchestown for one of the days than one of the days at Cheltenham. The Irish racegoer is more interested in the social aspect of a big day out than the quality of the horse running, in my view. Anyway, like Punchestown, you have a lot of hunter chases, bumpers. It's a real mixed bag of quality and kind of less quality, and it's a kind of a unique festival which has its origins also in the past and the local hunts and all of that. But I feel that like you'll have some of the flat horses we've had running even at the likes of Navan and the Curry yesterday, they won't draw a crowd at all. Now maybe there's a flat and a jump thing, and we get that when you see the relationship that the audience has with the likes of Godolphin Deschamps. But it's like if you can get the Punchestown is obviously a thing. To go to Punchestown, and I can relate to this, people were asking me for tickets. I could get tickets for the Friday. I had no idea how many people were going to be there. I was there on the Wednesday, and it was lovely. It didn't feel like you could get a drink. It was lovely and relaxed. That's an incredible crowd on the Friday. Like Punchestown is really a rural racetrack. It's you have to get a lift there. You have to get a bus there. It's not the most straightforward for Punchestown to organise all of this for over the course of 5 days. And they've obviously done a phenomenal job. And the weather was a massive help, no doubt. We had an Indian summer throughout the week, but it's not easy to get people racing, Vinny. As you know now, be it even Galway are kind of slightly struggling to maintain their crowds, even for the festivals. It's not that easy to get people racing. And you wrote about in your blog how the Dublin Racing Festival has been popular. The Dublin Racing Festival is capped at a relatively modest sort of 17, 18 grand. 40,000 at a race meet now is like something from the 1980s, and phenomenal effort by Punchestown.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I have to say one of the things my takeout from being there on Wednesday was the new bars they have around the parade ring. Great idea.
Brilliant.
Has something similar. I really think they're a fantastic idea. Rather than having people stuck indoors, they're right beside the action in the parade ring. It's a very good idea. I have to say most tracks should be thinking about doing something similar. I'm sure they could with temporary marquees or something rather than the wooden structure they had in Punchestown. My only negative from Punchestown, I'll throw it in now while I'm here, is parking the car. The pathways are all gravel in Punchestown, and because of the hot weather, they were all dusty. So I parked my car about 10 places.
You didn't handle the kickback, Vinny.
I have never seen nothing like it, Johnny. When I came out, you could barely see the car. It was just covered in dust, about an inch of dust. All they need to do is a little tractor with a bit of water and just throw it out there every morning before racing. I don't think they were doing that, and I couldn't believe how much dust there was. Anyway, that was my only negative. Everything else was terrific.
You were like City and Troy, and you're like City and Troy on the dirt. Yeah. Poor old Ryan Moore on top of you.
Yeah. So going back to Punchestown, the racing itself was fantastic. I have to say a big takeout for me as well was the British runners. 65 of them across the 5 days, and we had 8 winners. I wasn't expecting that, I have to say. What about you, Emma?
Yeah, no, it was brilliant to see them coming over in the troves, and I met a few of the UK people with the horses over there, and they're having a great time. I think that's kind of one of the things about Punchestown. That kind of end of the season, kind of a bit of a party atmosphere, I suppose. And I suppose it's kind of the nature of the week in Punchestown. There's all kind of different races. You know, you can go to Punchestown with almost any kind of a horse, really, up to a certain level. Like there's kind of lower grade handicaps than you would get at some of the other bigger festivals, and it's great because owners and smaller trainers get a chance to have a runner on the big day. And it's brilliant to see them coming over with success as well, because it's something we've chatted about plenty. We don't really see enough UK challengers to the big festivals here, but they came over in their droves to Punchestown, and it paid off big time, and it was great to see them getting the success for their travels as well.
Isn't it funny as well, Vinny? Like the idea of the racing game, and obviously the idea of life is to invoke Charles Darwin, the name of a horse at the moment. Like it's evolution and progress and becoming better and bettering the breed and getting the next Frankel, and Frankel maybe getting a better Frankel, and so on and so forth. Ultimately, if you're at Punchestown, the roar for the meeting, like there was probably as big a roar for some of the Hunter Chase finishes than there was for some of the Grade Ones. People just don't care. Like they really don't care. They want something that they backed, or they want a horse that they can relate to, and they want something that they can cheer on with gusto. And if that's a Grade 1 or the Bishop's Court Cup, it just doesn't really matter.
I suppose there's an element to that, yeah. Sure, look, people are out, they're having a fun day out, and they've taken the day off work, they're having a few drinks, and they're having a few bets, and of course it's all about the atmosphere, isn't it, and cheering on the horse you backed. But at the same time, we like to see these top grade national hunt horses, Galloping Deschamps you mentioned, Constitution Hill, we have to talk about him. What's gone on there? Because like he was, for me, I was all excited about him coming. The change of regime with him from last season to this, with him running at every festival, and then he completely bombs out. He's gone. It's very hard to see him bounce back after this. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. With a lot of horses did flop at Punchestown, but geez, it's very hard to see Constitution Hill after the two falls and then the performance. What did you make of that, John?
It's extraordinary market move for him in hindsight to back him into 8 to 13. But you can read into that what you will, and markets are hard to kind of figure out at times. But obviously, there was confidence that he was in good nick at home. I mean, there were serious red flags when you're hearing a horse schooling over fences going into a Grade 1 hurdle race. Like, I'm not a trainer, but I imagine that's you certainly don't want your horse jumping a hurdle like a fence going into a Grade 1 hurdle race over 2 miles. He'd almost fallen in 3 races in a row. If you remember at Cheltenham in January, how bad that mistake was at the last. So it was a perplexing run of mishaps or falls in good hurdle races. I wasn't personally that sure he was traveling that well at Aintree, but we were going to find out a bit more at Punchestown. But at this stage, it's really, really hard to know what you do, Vinny. I would say almost like just hit the reset button, put him out for the summer, and he was back. He was back so early last year. They were giving up positive bulletins around the Galway Festival, if I remember rightly, or certainly not far off. Long way from Cheltenham. But he's still relatively lightly raced. I would say hit the reset button with him. Just give him the summer off, and maybe send him to Cashel Palace for a few days or something like that. Get a bit of R&R, a bit of spa treatment, and maybe think about chasing next season. Who knows? There's not a lot to lose at this stage, but maybe just reset and don't give up on him just yet. Like he was still looking good, Nick, earlier on a few months ago. So I'm not giving up on him yet. And a lot of horses. I mean, Kopek to Boards. Fact to File ran deplorably badly at Punchestown. He wasn't the only odds-on favourite to this point. So I'm not giving up on him yet, but he's had a tough enough time with the last couple of years with mishaps on and off the track. And I think he needs a reset now.
Yeah. You talk about some of Willie's there bombing out as well after the long season, I presume. But jeekers, he still comes out with 15 winners. It's unbelievable. Listen, the British come over, they win 8 races, and Willie still wins 15. What would he have done if they hadn't come? What would he do if he started taking the cross-country races and the Hunter Chases seriously as well? Crazy stuff. What did you make of that, Emma? He's some week again, and of course his champion trainer, 19th time he's champion trainer. His main jockey, champion jockey for the 7th time. His son, champion amateur, 17 times or something ridiculous Patrick is. And then of course Jodie Townend also won the prize as leading lady amateur.
Yeah, it's some week for, even though, like you said, if a few of his bigger horses maybe didn't perform to full expectations, like Fact to File, like he was still mopped up the whole thing. I was there on the Wednesday, and I think Godolphin Deschamps' performance was, the crowd really got behind him, and you could see how much it meant to Paul Townend as well. And similar to State Man, I think Paul has all kind of always been in his corner. Maybe I probably questioned him a couple of times why he wasn't riding Lassie out ahead of him, but he's been loyal to Stateman, and it paid off on the Constitution Hill thing. I don't know, it's a funny one, isn't it? Like, he looked like he didn't really want to jump off at the start. Like he said, kind of change of tactics altogether this year. Going for the 3 big festivals, whereas before he was kind of more wrapped up, I suppose, a bit more. And what they'll do next. I thought it was surprising that the statement came out that he'll definitely stay in training next year. I don't think, surely not many people expected him to be retired as an 8-year-old. He's only ran 12 or 13 times. And you'd imagine that was kind of not too surprising. But yeah, back to Willie, like, I think Galopin Des Champs, Stateman, but I thought Bambino Fever was probably one of the biggest performances of the week for me. She is some mare. And like, she did a relative fair amount of racing, like in a short space of time for a filly. Like, she only started going at New Year's Day, and then she went to the DRF, then she went to Cheltenham, then she went to Punchestown. Like, it's some campaign and bumpers for a filly like her. And like, she pulled fairly hard with Jodie, but still she pulled clear. And I thought it was nice of Willie to leave Jodie ride her as well. I'd imagine Patrick would have been edging for the ride on her, but he stayed loyal to Jodie, who's partnered her to success all the way through. And yeah, it was brilliant to see. And she's some filly. I'm looking forward to seeing what she can do over hurdles.
It was a great week for the Townends, like, because I actually asked Jodie at Ballinrobe the other day, like, would she not consider going pro, like, given her strike rate? And she said, like, you'd be absolutely daft. I've one of the best jobs in the country, and like, she does pick up very good rides as an amateur, which is, the fact that she rides for Willie means she rides a lot of good horses. But like, I must do the stats on this. Like, Jodie Townend's record when she's not riding the favourite for Willie Mullins in bumpers must be extraordinary. Now, Bambino Fever was obviously favourite at Punchestown, but she's an incredible strike rate on horses farm. And just to mention Paul, like, Paul doesn't give that many interviews. He obviously spoke after winning the title, and like, I just thought it was a real touch of class to say that this year was about Michael O'Sullivan. It wasn't about him winning the title, and it'll be remembered for Michael. I thought that was a classy thing to do, because other people it'd be all about them really after winning another jockey's title. Obviously, the ride and Jasmine DeVoe as well advertises Paul's qualities, but a brilliant week for the Townend family. I seem to recall their uncle had a winner at Mallow lately as well, so the family's doing very well on all fronts.
Good stuff. Well, we might switch across from Punchestown now and have a look at the flat from last week. I can't believe this. Godolphin, they're after winning some major races over the weekend. The 1,000 guineas, the 2,000 guineas, the Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Oaks. Some performance, isn't it?
Yeah, it feels strange going. I know it's kind of always like this, going from Punchestown into the Guineas. It feels so early for such a major race in the flat calendar. But yeah, it was some weekend for Godolphin. First off, in the 2,000 Guineas, Ruling Court, really impressive. Obviously a big price breeze up purchase. I think he cost 2.3 million in France as a 2-year-old. So their investment, I suppose, is starting to pay off. Most of those big price ones normally don't, but working out well enough now. And then I actually tried to stay up for the Kentucky Derby. Sad enough, I actually fell asleep before, but I watched the replay. I love the build up to those American races. They do it. It's kind of a big spectacle. I think I heard, was it 100,000 plus at the Kentucky Derby? Like, we're talking about Punchestown numbers, but like, even I was speaking to my sister who lived in America for a few years, and she was saying it's kind of like their Grand National. Like, there's people, get dressed up and go into the town to watch the Kentucky Derby, even though, they might not know or care anything about horses. So major over there, and then to go on and win the 1,000 guineas again afterwards. Like, some weekend for Godolphin and some weekend for Charlie Appleby, whose record in the guineas, I don't know, it's probably not flying under the radar, but it probably should be lauded a bit more. Incredible target trainer, training a winner of the guineas. And yeah, it's a big weekend for Godolphin, who I suppose maybe in recent years were a bit lean on the top class end in the classic division, but definitely back with a bang this year.
It was extraordinary, Vinny. Like, it really was extraordinary. Like Godolphin, you'd have to say, with the money that Sheikh Mohammed has. I mean, he's the ruler of Dubai. You've all of this oil wealth money from the Middle East, and you basically almost, like, you see the money that these people can spend and the money that Godolphin could spend on horses. Like, for much of the last, we'd say 10 years ago, give or take, around the Al Zaruni sort of scandal, like, Godolphin were singularly failing spectacularly in terms of the battle versus Coolmore. And it was a battle between Godolphin and Coolmore. There was a massive rivalry there. There was no cross-pollination in terms of stallions. We'll get to that shortly because that's not the case anymore. But they were really failing given the money that they were spending. And this Appleby thing has just worked an absolute treat. Anytime I've interviewed him at the races, he's a very likable fella. He's just kind of like a fella that you just meet in the pub, or just a fella that you'd meet maybe having a bet at the races. He's just a normal fella, but he's doing a phenomenal job. But across the two countries, what they did at the weekend, but the story of the Guineas winner, the Colt, the fact that he was a breeze up by Justify, a breeze up purchase, as Emma said, cost guts of 2 million, but he's by Justify. So they won the Guineas. Well, like, Coolmore must be absolutely thrilled that Justify has gotten a Guineas winner, because Aidan O'Brien has spoken about how unique Justify is, and he's certainly that, but it's kind of hard to know what the median trip of his very good horses will be. And Ballydoyle / Coolmore have sent all of these mares to him, like a massive number of mares, or a load of them probably by Galileo, so they'll have a lot of middle distance sort of speed in them, or middle distance stamina. But just for Godolphin to have bought a Justify at the breeze ups for all of that money, who is basically the I'm not going to say he's the Warfront of his time, but he is the sire, because I think Justify is going to do well, unlike Warfront, who was obviously disappointment. But he's the sire that, as Martin Stevens said in the Racing Post today in his piece, go hard or go home. They have thrown everything at him. They've thrown so many mares at him. And then for him to have this classic winner, another classic winner after the Derby winner last year, but he's a miler trained by Godolphin. He looks an exceptional racehorse as well. It was a hell of a race. The two races, there was so much going on in them. And Charlie Appleby, he deserves serious credit, because God knows Godolphin were failing for long enough.
What do you think of the criticism to Kieran Shoemark? A lot of it.
I'll let you start with that, Savini, yeah.
Well, I wasn't 100% happy with the ride, but having said that, I was waiting on a treble, it turned out. I did La Lumba, and a horse I napped it on the same day, Hey Sunshine, at 12 to 1. So I had La Lumba at 7 to 4, Hey Sunshine at 12 to 1. Going on to Field of Gold, not too happy, I have to say. I thought he should have started making his run a bit earlier, personally. But he'll win races, there's no doubt about it. The horse has still got everything intact, basically, to be a fair horse, and I'd be looking forward to how he does the rest of the season, but I wasn't too happy with the ride. What did you make of it?
I thought, like, if you saw Colin Keane winning on the 4-7 shot at the Curragh, and the drone footage that they had of it, I don't know, was it on the Curragh website or did Lynn Lyons we put it up on Instagram, but it was brilliant to watch.
Yeah.
Brilliant to watch. Like, I'm a firm believer that drone footage in racing is one of the most criminally underused, and there might be reasons behind that. And I'm still trying to sell the idea of going racing, because this, you still get stuff racing that you can't get at home. But drone footage of races is just like, drones are incredible. Like, when you see them in action, we did a bit of footage, myself and Emma, lately up at a couple of the yards, and I remember one of the lads had we met Album Photo and Duvan, but like the drones on windy days where they can stay so still, and they're not overly expensive, but what they can do in races, you can see stuff that you just don't see. So I suppose the viewpoint we had of the Guineas was the car that was moving, and we saw basically we almost saw Field of Gold throughout the race. What we didn't really see was the fact that they didn't seem to be going any gallop. And Kieran Shoemark rides a very, very competent race, but he has to hold the horse up because he's quite tricky. He's not straightforward. He was very keen when he won the Craven, and they had to hold him up for a run. But this race wasn't really run to suit. And when the winner quickened, I think he delayed a bit too late. But I think he rode him as if, A, he was pretty much a good thing, and B, he had to hold on to him for as long as possible. For me, he would like to get the race back, but I think there were extenuating circumstances in that the gallop was so slow early as well.
Yeah, funny track as well, Newmarket, isn't it, as well, going into that dip and everything else. So, look, I couldn't fully blame him, but at the same time, I was very disappointed he didn't win. What about you, Emma? What did you think of it?
I don't know. I thought watching the race back. Now, admittedly, I hadn't backed the horse, so maybe I wasn't analysing as close as some. But watching the race first time, I didn't think anything of it. Then I saw all the backlash on Twitter, and I said I better watch this a couple more times and see. I don't know. I think it might be a little bit hypercritical, to be honest. Like he was tracking the winner. I think if he was good enough, he would have picked up and gone past him. I think he had plenty of time to go past him. Look, I know maybe if he went a little bit earlier, he would have been closer, but I don't know.
Who wins if they run against each other tomorrow at the Curragh?
At the car, I'd say the same horse still wins. I'd say the same horse still wins. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe if he was a little bit closer, he would have been closer to him. But I think he had plenty of time to pick up and go past him if he was. And like you said, he rode him confidently, as he should have, I suppose, after that Craven performance. But he just didn't pick up well enough in the end for me. I don't know. I know Kieran Shoemark came out and said he should have been a bit closer, but I think maybe he's being a little bit too harsh on himself, I would say.
That's what the really the top level jockeys as well, Vinny. I think you can do all your homework and you can basically be the SWAT in the class and all of that, and you can have the pedigree, you can have the horse, you can have everything. But something happens in a race where you have to be able to react to the scenario around you and basically act kind of naturally in terms of intuition and all of that. And maybe that this was the ride of somebody where Ryan Moore might have just won the race. And I'm speculating, I'm not a jockey, but it was probably a race that you couldn't give him a massively high mark, because I think the best horse finished second. For all that, I do believe that the winner was so good that we might be underestimating him as well.
One other thing from last weekend, we talked about Godolphin had a fantastic weekend, and yes, they did, which means that Ballydoyle didn't. So what about that? They're a little bit behind a lot of their horses, I think. What do you make of it, Emma? Can you see them bouncing back soon?
I think they're
just,
horse
in the Guineas.
Yeah, just a bit light in ammunition, I suppose, for the Guineas at the weekend. Like, I'd say Expanded wasn't first, second, or third choice really if all the big guns were fit and healthy to go. So he was just over there taking his chance, I suppose. Lake Victoria, Aidan kind of had been saying all along that she was a bit behind, and I think she ran a fine race. Like, you'd imagine she'll come on plenty for that. But I don't think I'd say the horses are running bad. Like, they had a good day at the Curragh yesterday. I thought Officer was very impressive, winning the Tetrarch. And Los Angeles obviously came out and won as well. So I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with the way the horses are running. I think, Expanded, he ran probably his race and the thing. And Lake Victoria, I'd imagine, will be much better as the season goes on, because they were kind of always saying it would be hit and miss whether she'd make it or not. So I'd say, I wouldn't be too worried about the form of the Ballydoyle horses. You always kind of see it this time of year as well, that they'll take one or two runs and they'll keep coming forward as the year goes on. So I wouldn't be firing warning signs.
Isn't it mad, Emma? Red Letter was like, I think, a head behind Lake Victoria at the Curragh when they made their debuts. It was almost identical at Newmarket.
And Lake Victoria, like last year, she got better and better as the season went on, like all the way up to the Breeders' Cup. Like, she seemed to be improving run for run. And I obviously wasn't in Newmarket, but people were kind of saying maybe she was a little bit blind in her coat and stuff. So you'd imagine, as the season goes on, she'll keep improving again. And she's definitely one. Like, I wouldn't be writing her off after that run. I'd say, she could still be a really top class filly this year.
Yeah, it seemed to be a bit of a rush to get her there as well, wasn't it? Aidan was talking about doubts because she'd come back late in after her hard season as a 2-year-old. So, like, I'm sure she will improve and everything else, but it's all about classics in Ballydoyle. You'd imagine they'd want to start winning one soon. Anyway, I'm sure they'll win one of the Irish ones, because there's no doubt they'll have something primed for there. Moving on to something that was of interest to me anyway, and should be of interest to most people, I hope, is there was a launch of a new tourism initiative last Wednesday, which is why I was in Punchestown, called Horse Country. What's interesting here is it's like a wild Atlantic way for Kildare and Tipperary around horse racing, and they've got some great things in it. There's 15 different experiences at the moment aimed at tourists, obviously, and I'm not even sure if it's aimed at Irish tourists, because some of the prices will be out of my price range anyway. There's a trip you can go on to Coolmore and Ballydoyle. You have to stay in the Cashel Palace first off, so that rules me out of it. But then on top of that, it's $2,500 for 2 people to go. So it's very expensive for that. Now, there are ones at much lower prices. There's one you can go, I think you get afternoon tea in the Cashel Palace. You go and see the Rock of Cashel, and you see the Horse Museum down in Fethard as well. That's only 70 quid. So yes, I could go on that one. But basically with this, Emma, it's a good idea, is it? It's behind the scenes. It gives you an opportunity to see things you wouldn't normally see on top of that. And then as well as that, the idea that maybe the industry can earn money out of something more than just the race days, or more than just a trainer training horses or whatever. It's good. I think it's good news. It's nice to see that lots of people are behind this, lots of big people behind it. 2 ministers turned up on the day, 2 of the Fine Gael ministers, which was good, in the respective areas of tourism and sports. So it was good to see both of them turning up. For Horse Racing Ireland are back in this as well. So are Fáilte Ireland. So are the county councils from each county. So it could take off. Like when people talked about the Wild Atlantic Way about 10 years ago, you just said, what? But look at it now. It's huge tourism, and we even have what's it, the Ancient East as well. There's all sorts of different things going on. So now we have horse country. What do you think of that, Emma? Will it work?
Yeah, I think, look, it's definitely good to see putting forward some initiative like that. And like you said, some of them are obviously going to be quite expensive, but it's good that there is kind of more affordable options as well. Like the one you mentioned, like I'd say the night in the Castle Palace might take up about $1,000 of that budget. So you probably have to factor that in as well to the price of it. But like you were saying, I think we were speaking before we came on air, and there was an option to go on a morning with Johnny Murtagh or something with 8 people, I think $250 a head. I mean, I actually think like if you had 8 people, like Johnny Murtagh, a massive character in Irish racing, like if you could compare it to like a soccer player, imagine, just for an Irish example, like a morning with Roy Keane for $250 a head, like it would be sold out, I'd say, for the next 3 or 4 years. So, you know, if you were big racing fans, you know, getting a chance to do something like that, I think it isn't a massive expense. And it's good to see like the trainers and, you know, studs being open and welcoming to taking people in, because it's very important, I suppose, for the sport going forward, that, you know, people feel like they can be a part of it and they can go out and they can meet these people and, you know, see horses on the gallop, see, you know, stud farms and things like that, and kind of get a better understanding of the background, like you said, rather than just going, you know, to the races and seeing them for those few minutes that they're running. So I think it's really interesting. And to be honest, I haven't really looked a whole quite into the packages being offered, but like if there's some affordable options, and like there's obviously going to be high end options as well for the people who can do those ones as well. But yeah, it's an interesting idea, and it's good to see, like you said, that it's getting good support from the ministers. And yeah, I think it would definitely be, you know, for people coming to visit Ireland, like if you were going to a big race meeting, if you could tie in a package like that, it's definitely going to grow interest in the sport, I think.
I agree. Yeah, I think it could do well. I see there'll be a few other smaller trainers like to get in on the act that Johnny Murtagh's doing anyway. The $2,000 for 3-hour morning with 8 people. Now, in fairness, his wife Orla's going to do a bit of light lunch, so there'll be that on top. So you have to be able to organise the food too. But I think it could work. I can see tourists coming in, because there are high end tourists coming in from America particularly, but probably China and the Far East of all descriptions, that maybe when they come they would like to do something around the equine industry. What do you think, Johnny?
Yeah, there's definite merit in it. Like, I'm always struck if I ever get first class on the train, if there's a bit of a deal on it, it's always Americans. I remember coming back absolutely hanging after a night out at Killarney races last year, and the first class, I was like, this will be great now. The first class be quiet. It was just full of American tourists at like 7:30 the following morning. And the American tourists who come over here, you will see this. They stay in high-end hotels, and they'll probably, you know, some American tourists will be happy to pay this type of money. Our attraction to American tourists might be what it was with the price of things, but that's kind of the market I imagine this is for. Just on the 5-star hotels as well. Like you have Castle Palace, you have Adare Manor, which is probably another level again, even though I haven't been in the Adare Manor, but you've Bective coming on next year as well, Noel Moore. So you'll have 3, and that's going to be 5-star, I think. So you'll have 3 5-star hotels in Ireland with massive racing teams. And I think Noel and his wife Valerie, their big thing with the, you know, they will be sort of looking a bit to Castle Palace, which if you've ever been to is literally like this racing post as soon as you come in. It's amazing how in tune it is with racing and the Coolmore sort of heritage. But you've obviously Adare Manor, which is JP's, and then you'll have Noel's, which will be true to the local area as well. He's very much a proud Meath man. I'm sure he's happy at the moment. But we'll have 3 of the top hotels in Ireland, which have massive racing teams, which can't be any harm as well. There's definitely marketability there.
Yeah, good stuff. Another initiative that came out over the weekend is this new International Jockeys League, where you've got 12 of the top jockeys in the world going to be competing in a league around the world, different races and everything else. You have Frankie Dettori, William Buick, and a lot of the top guys from Australia and Hong Kong and that involved, and France and Japan, but no Irish guy, no Irish rider among them, and no female riders, which is a bit disappointing, is it?
Yeah, look, I suppose I saw people making that argument on Twitter, but like, you know, if your name in the top 12 flat jockeys in the world, what female jockey do you put in there? Look, I'm not massively familiar with the female jockeys in other jurisdictions, but I think to be maybe hard enough to make the case, like if you know, if it's jumps racing, you put Rachel Blackmore in there. But I think, look, if a female rider merits her place in the lineup, 100%, but I don't think that a female rider should be included just for the sake of it in these kind of things. So I don't really have massive issue with that, to be honest. It kind of, I don't know, all these leagues, they're kind of wash, rinse, repeat, really, aren't they? Now, I actually, this idea, if it actually is the top 12 riders in the world, and you know they're going to be there at every meeting, and it's at all the major tracks, I think that's probably more interesting to me in a way, at least, than the likes of a Shergar Cup or Racing League. Still, the kind of whole team aspect of it doesn't really appeal to me too much. But I do think seeing the top riders from every jurisdiction competing against each other, it is interesting because you're not just getting to see these riders compete against each other too often, if really ever. So look, it'll be interesting to see how it works out, and hopefully they actually can get the top 12 jockeys in the world, because if they're getting just anyone who's going to show up, it's not really going to be the same thing, is it?
Yeah, I would say, having said that now, personally, I think Ballydoyle should have been in there. That'd be my opinion on it. But Johnny, what do you think of this? Look, they're talking about maybe having a leg of this series in the Curragh or Leopardstown, and yet no Irish rider. That's a bit disappointing, is it?
Yeah, I know what Emma's saying about wash, rinse, repeat. And there is an element. A lot of the stuff is kind of it's trying to kind of make racing more like conventional sports and all of that, and it doesn't necessarily work. I actually thought, to be fair, I thought John Velasquez coming back last year, and honestly, riding in Ireland, like if you saw him and you'd never seen him before, you wouldn't think much of him at all compared to some of the riders, his style and all of that. It was just so interesting to see like a genuinely legendary rider, albeit at the advanced stage of his career, come over to Ireland and ride a place like Naas. And I do like when you're an Irish rider, then by contrast, and you go over to riding these really tough races around tight American tracks, local track knowledge. I mean, the famous one that comes to mind is Christoph Soumillon and John Murtagh, and the two Can horses, Delicani obviously in the Irish Derby, and Johnny Murtagh still very proud of, like, I'm the king around here. This is my territory, and that's the way he rode the race that day when he upset Christoph Soumillon. I find that very interesting, the different style, because the American style of riding is completely different to here, and that international aspect of bringing jockeys around the world, I would be a fan of. So I wouldn't knock it before it's been tried, I suppose.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if we do get them all coming here for one day in Leopardstown or the Curragh, which has been muted already. Anyway, last thing we'll wrap up with is a horse to follow from last week. Emma, did you see something that really caught your eye?
Yeah, it's not very interesting or original, but I just thought Bambino Fever. I thought Godolphin is on up there, but Bambino Fever really kind of blew me away. Even like in the betting, she wasn't really as short as you thought she might have been after, being a brilliant winner at Cheltenham. But I just thought her performance, like she wasn't easy on herself, and just the way she pulled away from the field, like she's kind of one that would get you really excited for next year. And that's kind of one of the things you normally take away from Punchestown. If a horse can go to those big festivals and keep doing it, and yeah, she's ultra tough, and I can't wait to see what she can do over hurdles.
Great stuff. Yeah, another bumper horse I liked was Soldier in Milan. Emmett Mullins ran on Friday, the day he had a treble. This could be very good. Wide margin winner of a point to point, but well backed to win a hot race in Punchestown. A lot of English runners in it. We also had King Rasco Gray, Willie Mullins, 250 grand store that was bought for. So, like, you're talking a high level of horse here, and blew them away. Wants softer ground, according to Emmett, and he seems very excited about it. So if Emmett Mullins is excited about it, so am I. Johnny, what do you make of it? And catch your eye particularly?
Yeah, some of those younger horses at Punchestown that maybe disappointed, maybe the horse you mentioned there, Willie's, I give them a pass on the basis of, like, the ground was, like, fair play to them at Punchestown. It was drying out so rapidly. It was a big week really for Jukebox Jury, because he had obviously Bambino Fever was so good, and as much as he didn't manage to win, I thought Honesty Policy, like, for a horse of his inexperience, he's progressed markedly. So it was a good week for Jukebox Jury and his horse going forward. Emma actually gave this horse a mention earlier, but I was kind of stupidly, I was in Sligo working on Sunday, and I didn't really look at the Curragh that much yesterday because I was kind of tired going home on Sunday, and then I was back at Downroyal yesterday, so I was kind of just concentrating on doing a bit of prep for that. Didn't really look at the Curragh until today and look back on a bit of it. There's some cracking racing at the Curragh yesterday. We obviously had White Birch and Los Angeles in their race. Two horses I have to mention. First of all, Andab, who is by Saxon Warrior, who's probably sorry that hasn't quite lived up to maybe initial expectations, but he's getting some nice horses at the moment. And Andab, first time out, was exceptional in that first maiden. It was obviously a maiden that was restricted in terms of the the EBF median series maiden, but he was brilliant. I love the way he finished the race. But for me, the horse to take out for was actually Officer. Officer ran against the older horses the last day on his season return. He was a once raced horse, so that was a hell of an ask for a horse of Aidan's. First time out taking on the older horses, second run of his career, first run of the season. And then yesterday he took on Currawood, who I think was pretty well fancied. Alakazi, who looked brilliant footsteps in the sand based on his run at Leopardstown, and even Beckman, who was fourth, and he won very readily. And I think he's 10-1 for the Irish Guineas. He might be taking on the good Kingman horse of Roger Varians, but 10-1 for the Irish Guineas. He's Dubawi out of Hydrangea, brilliant pedigree. He looks a lovely, lovely horse, and I'd be definitely thinking that's a good bet.
Yeah, he was impressive. I'd agree with you.
Very good. All right. Well, that's it from us this week. So if you like the show, please do click the little like button on YouTube below the screen, and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so you get notifications about what we're going to be doing in future weeks. And do gamble responsibly, as I know you will. All right. We'll see you all again next week. Thanks for everything. Bye for now.